Hello, everyone. Welcome. I was like, oh gosh, I have something white on my black outfit. Welcome to our manifesting coffee chat. Thank you so very much for letting me push this back just a little bit. So, Evie won Student of the Month for the virtue of respect, and she was so surprised. She didn't know that she was getting the award, and this is the very first award ceremony she's ever been to, and so she was the very first one they called, and she sat there kind of looking around like, "Oh my goodness," and then she got up and she was so smiley. She was very excited for winning that, and then Andrew got a honor roll, and he was only one of 3 kids in his class to get it, and I was very proud of him just to see the growth from both kids now that we've been settled and we've been in the same school for 2 years in a row and everything else. It's just makes my mama heart proud. Also, if you didn't notice from this morning, my new lights finally came in. So we have several days of finally like the whole vibe over here on the side. But thank you. As soon as I got the email that the award ceremony was happening this Friday and that both kids were winning awards, I felt so conflicted because I knew I wanted to be there, but I also made a promise to myself that I was going to follow through with everything on our spectacular plans this year. So I'm still following through just a little bit hour later. And I know that it is quite late for those of you in the UK. So if you are joining us from the UK and you want to give a little comment there, then please let us know that you're here. So we are going to discuss manifestation today, and we're going to dive straight into it, and we're going to really talk about, like, we began this conversation this morning during the live stream, but we're going to really dive in deep to what I feel is what's on my mind lately for manifestation. Feel free to ask any questions or to give your own thoughts. If you say, well, that's not really what I believe, here's what I believe. Yay, Inca's from the UK. We have someone from France. Rana's here. Thank you all so much for joining us, even though I know it's super late. Yay. Okay, we're going to dive in. And first, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to share my screen because I put together some slides for you all. Let me make sure it's sharing. That's funny. It's like got it in the front and the back. Here we go. Okay, we are going to just get started. Oh, yay, from Denmark. Welcome. I love how global this audience is. It's not late if you're a night owl. Exactly. I'll be up that late tonight because it's the first game of the World Series and my local team, Texas Rangers are in tonight. So we're getting ready to party and have some fun tonight after we all go trick or treating. So it's going to be an amazing day. So we talked a little bit about manifestation this morning, but I'm going to give a little bit more on it for those of you that were not here earlier. So this truly is what I believe about manifestation. And like I mentioned before, I just invite everybody to be open-minded because I never expect that everything I say is going to be the truth for you. And I am 1000% open for you to disagree with me, to share your own thoughts, but I hope that you also come to this discussion, whether you're here live or on the replay, with a feeling of, I'm going to keep an open mind. And if something doesn't work for me, it's okay for me to just say, well, that part of it doesn't work for me, but this part does. And that is always what I hope when I'm teaching or talking about something that I'm passionate about, is just that you'll take from it what you need from it or what you feel is true, because your truth is your truth. And that's what matters most, right? So for me, manifesting a better life for yourself and your family is not about being perfect. It's not like you're trying to act like something you're not, or having to pretend to be something or believe something that you don't believe. Manifesting is simply about becoming an energetic match for what you desire, meaning that we all, every item on this planet, every living thing on this planet vibrates at a specific energy. And when we are creating, we are creators here in this world, and exactly, we're co-creating this with the energy of the universe, God, angels, whatever it is that you believe in. There, for me, there may be some people here who don't believe in a higher power, so maybe you can just believe in your own power. But for me, I believe that there is a higher power to guiding us, and for me, that true source, that true higher power wants the best for us at all times and sees the best in us at all times. And if we could only see ourselves the same way that that energy sees us, the universe, God, then we would just love ourselves so much because that energy really does love us and want the best for us. And when we are working towards manifesting a better life for ourselves and our family, then what we're trying to do really is to try to become an energetic match for allowing in those desires, for matching up with those desires. And this really is a way of basically you get what you put out there, right? That you reap what you sow, you get what you put into the world. And so the more kindness and love and understanding you put into the world, the more that will come back to you. And also, like we talked about before, the idea of, I know some of you weren't here this morning, but the idea of basically that we sorry, I'm going to try to get my thoughts together. It's like moving from one thing to another. I know I'm going to be stuttering a little bit, so I apologize, but I truly believe that it's all about free will, that we have the free will to choose what we experience to a degree. And there will be things that we experience that are outside of what we wanted to happen to us. And that doesn't mean that it's our fault. But at the same time, there are laws acting in the universe the same way of the laws that we can see. It's like you can't see gravity, but you see gravity in action, right? And we all know through scientific study that gravity is a law of the universe, and our planet happens to have, more gravity than the moon, for example. So those are laws, and the same way that those laws govern how things work, there are other laws that maybe have not yet fully been explained by science, but they still act on us and on our universe in the same way that gravity does. And so if you think about law of attraction or manifestation, it's really about becoming an energetic match and allowing your own energy and your belief to match what it is that you want to happen in your life. So, an example from my own life. I'm gonna give you a couple of examples. So one, I wanted very badly to be a writer, but I didn't believe I was capable of being a success. I had other people also, and this is how other people can influence our energy. I had other people in my life telling me being a writer is too hard. It's really rare to become a writer. And then they pushed me towards singing, which I also love to do. But you know what? It's also really rare and hard to be a professional opera singer, arguably more difficult. But that was the path that someone else wanted me to be on. And so I listened to the fear that they kept putting in my heart. And I followed that because I believed, well, I don't know that I can be successful in this. So I chose to pursue a life that didn't involve being a writer. And part of that, of course, is my own free will and my choice. And part of it is allowing myself to be influenced by the energy and desires of other people that didn't align with me. But for a decade, signs kept pointing me back to writing. I was in music school for graduate school, and I wrote a piece because you still have to write papers and different stuff in graduate school. And when that happened, every single time the teachers would pull me aside and say, "Oh my goodness, have you ever thought of being a writer?" Or I would be at a bar and we're telling stories and somebody would pull me aside and say, "Oh my gosh, are just such a great storyteller. Have you ever thought of being a writer?" Or different signs that you might have seen in your own life. It's like those signs kept pointing me back toward this is what you want to do. And I had this secret desire to get back to writing, and it just kept kind of knocking on my shoulder, so to speak. And while I did ignore it for a while, I did start, because of the universe and that sort of nudge, I did start to think more and more that maybe I should get back to it. As I approached my 30th birthday, I had this huge awakening of like, this is not who I was meant to be. And I don't know for sure who I was meant to be. I didn't know exactly what I wanted at the time. But at that moment, like in the few years before my 30th birthday, probably 4 to 6 years before that, I had given up on every other dream and hope. And I was just like kind of floating along and had a lot of really negative experiences because I just kept focusing on the negative, focusing on the negative. But I had this moment turning 30 where it was like suddenly I just like someone just tapped on my third eye or something and knocked on my brain and said, "This is not who you're meant to be." And I felt it so deeply in my soul that I opened my heart up to new possibilities and hope. And when I did that, I shifted my own vibration because I was very closed off, stressed, negative, complaining all the time. And it wasn't my fault that I was in that place. I had something happen to me that was very destructive, and I had to go through a period of self protection, right? Survival mode, Augustina, exactly. I was in that mode, but it was a moment, it was like the universe never gave up on me, kept giving me signs, "Here, take this." It was kind of like a little, breadcrumb saying, "Here, see this breadcrumb? Come over with us." And when I wouldn't go, the universe, God did not get mad at me, said, "Here we go. Let's try again. We're gonna gently guide you back." And in that moment of my 30th birthday approaching, I said, I'm going to open my heart up to new possibilities. And for me, that was a massive turning point in my life. It didn't mean I took any action at first. Before I took any action on this, I had the feeling first and the ability or the desire to think about it differently, to see it differently, and the willingness to open myself up. And when we're closed off, sometimes we can't even see the signs. We can't see the possibilities because we're completely blind to it. And we've talked about this before with the reticular activating system. And the example that I've heard used so many times is like a car, right? And we've talked about this before, so I won't get into it too much, but you're familiar with the concept that like maybe you never noticed a white Tesla before in your life, but the second you start thinking about getting one, it's going to seem like everybody has one. Or the minute you buy one, you're going to get on the road and be like, oh, there's another Tesla and there's another Tesla. And that could be true for anything. It's like maybe you've never heard of a certain book before, but now all of a sudden, every time you turn on TikTok, everyone's talking about that book. Or, those people were always buying that Tesla. Those Teslas were always on the road. Your brain just didn't notice it yet because you weren't in the same vibration of that Tesla, right? But now that you started thinking about the possibilities of that car or that life or that book, suddenly you're awakened to it. And now you see it and you notice it more. And that was what happened to me, that when I opened my heart to new possibilities and the possibility of a different life for myself, I began to see opportunities that might have been there before, but that I was so closed off to that I didn't see them. And the amazing things that happened to me from that moment on, one of them was a house fire, okay? A second house fire. And you wouldn't think that that would be something that would be so much of a blessing, but it was, because it knocked me out of my everyday life. It knocked me out of a regular mortgage payment with a husband that was abusive to me. It allowed me to get free of him without having to like it allowed me to move in with George, to meet George, like all these different things without having all this baggage of having to sell a house or having to do all these things because my house was gone. Everything I owned was gone. It was like I had this awakening and suddenly the universe was like, okay, we're going to clear all this out for you. And a major opportunity opened up to not only be with the person that I had fallen in love with, and even I really don't even believe that I would have ever met George or noticed how amazing he was if I hadn't been open to the possibility that my life could be different. And I learned how, I moved in with him and he gave me the opportunity to learn to write, to not have to work a full-time job. And I learned to write novels and give this dream a shot, right? I was scared, but because of all those signs and all those things leading up to it, I just knew and took a leap of faith. And then step by step, sorry, I know I'm in the way of that. Step by step, I followed my intuition and the signs around me. And now, over the course of those 15, 16 years since that moment, I followed my intuition and I've sold now 1 million copies of my books and have this amazing opportunity to teach fellow authors what I've learned. But if I went back to that 30-year-old version of myself and I just yanked her out of her reality and put her right here in this life, she wouldn't know what to do with this life, right? I had to one tiny step at a time become the person that I am today. And the person that I am 10 or 15 years from now, God willing, will be an even more advanced version of myself. And she will have gone through other things that have pushed her to the next level. But so often we want to quantum leap from where we are to the dream house, to the dream career, to the dream things. But the truth is, we don't really want that. We want to evolve into the kind of person who has that life. And that takes work. And I'm going to kind of talk about what that work is today. So here's another example from my own life. I had a dream to someday buy a beautiful home with high ceilings, with 2 floors, and a beautiful view of the sunset. I had a pretty clear idea, but I didn't know for sure where that home was going to be. I just knew the kind of life that I wanted to have. I knew I wanted a staircase. I knew I wanted the backyard to view the sunset. And I wanted a place that felt like a wealthy, abundant home, right? At the time that I was dreaming of this, at the beginning, I was living with George and we were living in a 1,000 square foot or less townhouse that was old and had really old carpet, really old wallpaper. It was not a super beautiful house. We were very happy there, but we had very little backyard, all the things. But I was dreaming of this beautiful house. And we did find a house over time after publishing for a few years and having a baby. We did find a house. It wasn't exactly what we wanted, but it was a major step forward. It had high ceilings, it had a beautiful staircase, not so much like a beautiful view of the sunset, and it was right like up against a road. So it was like not perfect, but it was such a step forward. And we moved our family into that home in 2013. And it was a dream come true. But as we continued to live there and see the problems with where we were, and we noticed how it wasn't exactly what we wanted, it allowed us to refine the idea of what we did want. And so we realized, okay, this isn't the full manifestation of our dream home. The yard's too small. It's not really the town for us. So we thought, let's open our mind to the possibility of something different. So we started dreaming bigger and we started thinking we want to move to Charleston. And at the time, we had a specific school that we dreamed to get our son into. We knew we wanted to live somewhere near the beach or on the water, but we had no idea how this was going to happen. And there were obstacles in the way. We had to sell our house first. We put it up on the market. It just wasn't selling. So I dreamed of this house on the water, but again, way over our budget. We couldn't sell our current home. But instead of giving up and just saying, we'll settle for something that isn't what we want, I shifted my energy into what would it feel like to find a beautiful house near the water. Okay, maybe I'm not ready for the big dream house just yet, but how can I bring that dream life into my reality right now? And instead, like at the moment, I had been really focused on the hardship part of it. Like, oh my gosh, I can't believe our house won't sell. We haven't had a single showing. We did all this work. And I found myself starting to complain a lot about the hardship of it. Like 3 whole months, this house is on the market. And I found all these reasons to believe that it was just the worst thing. Like, well, our realtor says that the market was so booming. And then the minute we put our house on the market, nothing's happening. And I was so focused on the negative. I called the school that we wanted to get Andrew into. They have a 2-year waiting list. Like nothing was working out. And I was for a moment just completely mired in every day at dinner, complaining about it, focused on the problems and all of that. And I had a friend say to me, just let go of all the stress of it. Have faith that something's going to work out. Like, how would it feel to you if it did work out? Like, what if you could have a beautiful house by the beach? Maybe it's not going to look like what you thought it was going to look like, but maybe just open yourself up to a better solution for now. Maybe there's another solution out there. I couldn't see it, but I thought, okay, I have this experience from my past where I trusted that everything was going to work out. And I took a leap of faith. So let's do that again. So I sat down, I opened my heart yet again to the possibility of something different. I dreamed of what I wanted, and I sat down for 5 nights in a row and did the 55 by 5 ritual. We talk about this in my manifestation course, but it's not something I made up. It's something that people have been doing for a long time. So the idea is that you write down a mantra or something that's relatively short. I encourage you to make it short so that you don't have to write it so many times. But for 5 nights, you get yourself into a feeling of as if it's already come true. So, for example, I might have said something. I'm like, I'm so grateful for our new home. And in my mind, I know that that feels like a house near the beach with Andrew in the school he wants. And I would sit down and meditate for just about 3 to 5 minutes on how it would feel if suddenly we just got the keys to this new house and we were walking in, and I was imagining how great that would feel and getting my vibration up because I'm like opening my heart to the possibility of what it would feel like to have this home and to just have it work out. And I let go of how it needed to happen. And that for me is a key part of manifestation. And it is one of the most difficult parts because when we're focused on the problem, we cannot find the solution. The solution is at a different vibration than the problem. And so when we're mired in the problem, we can't lift ourselves to the vibration of the solution. So I said, okay, I'm going to stop focusing on the problem for a short period. And instead, I'm going to open my mind up and my heart up to, I don't need to know how it's going to happen, but what if it did happen? How would that feel? And I allowed myself to really feel what it would be to have this work. So for 5 nights, I wrote down this mantra, something along the lines of, it feels so good. I'm so grateful to have this home. And I just allowed myself for those 5 days to just enjoy it, like, wow, that really would be fun. And I spent time on Pinterest looking at houses near the beach and started planning things for our trips to Charleston and what we would buy if we lived near the beach and all those kind of things. And Jenna says that happened when my husband was laid off earlier this year. I had faith it would work out. He was unemployed one day and landed his dream job. So sometimes that is even better than what you had before, right? So I did this ritual. I opened my heart up. Okay, I don't need to know how. I'm just going to have faith that it's going to work out. After I finished the 55 by 5 ritual, the very next day, looking, well, actually, I kind of wrote this in the back order. What actually happened was the very next day, our realtor contacted us and said, I have a couple that's coming here for military and they need a place to rent, but they don't want to buy and they love your house. Would you be willing to rent your home instead of selling it for 3 years? And the price was really, really good. And it was going to allow us for their rental to pay for our mortgage and the taxes for that year while we were also paying down our mortgage. And then that same day, when we opened our mind to the possibility of, I don't know if I can move myself out of the way here. Yeah, there we go. When we open our mind to the possibility of, oh, here's a solution we hadn't even thought about. What if we don't sell the house, but we rent it out? Suddenly I was like, wow, okay, well, I hadn't been looking at rentals in Charleston. Let me go look. And that very same day, a townhouse 2 miles from the beach with this gorgeous water view of the marsh went on the rental market. And I immediately contacted this woman and said, I want to apply for it. And she said, oh my goodness, this listing has only been up for 30 minutes and I already have 5 people coming to see it on Saturday. And I said to her, can I come see it on Friday? And she said, if you're willing to drive up here on a Friday, I'll happily show it to you. And so we ended up in a matter of 2 days, we rented out our house. We got a new townhouse 2 miles from the beach. And when I called the school, that we had been wanting for Andrew that had a 2-year wait list. They said, you won't believe it, but we just had a 5-year-old drop out and we have a spot. And since you're ready to make payment right now, we'll go ahead and lock you in because nobody else on our wait list is for that particular classroom. And the fact that it all came together so perfectly is not anything I ever could have created or made happen by sheer force of will in my own life. It was something that the universe sent me someone saying, be open to something different. And then I listened to that. I got myself, and it's not so much about doing the 55 by 5 ritual. The ritual itself is just a tool. if you don't believe in manifestation, but you believe in prayer, then sit in prayer for a while. It's the same general idea. It's the idea of allowing yourself to match the vibration of the thing that you want to draw into your life. And if you sit in prayer or meditation for a while and you allow yourself to feel the feelings of what it would be like if you had it, instead of the feelings of how hard it is not to have it, or your frustration of it not being there, or it feels too hard, then you won't even believe how fast sometimes the solutions can come to you. So this was the house that we ended up renting. Like, how beautiful is this? It was the bottom floor was a garage and there were a lot of stairs, but it was a three-story place. So gorgeous. This was the view outside of our living room was the beautiful marsh. And guess what? Sunset right over the water, which was part of my dream. I also had a gorgeous office that I absolutely loved. And I was able to sit at that desk and have that water view every single day. And we were less than 2 miles from the beach, which meant we could basically walk across the intercoastal waterway. We could drive to the beach every day, all the time, anytime we wanted. It was absolutely beautiful, and it was our dream life. Look at my sweet little Andrew. We used to go to the beach all the time. And there were still this was not the whole our whole lives. This was just the next step in our progression as a family, and it was really a great place for him to be. But again, living in this home, there were still things that we realized was not exactly what we wanted, right? Like, we didn't have a family gaming room. We were gaming and set up our room in the like kitchen, the dining room kitchen area. We didn't really have space for if we wanted another baby. There were lots of other things that we didn't quite have, but this home was the next step for us. And we also like, I wrote 7 books in that house, at least 6 books in that house, and had a baby in that house, or I got pregnant with a baby, I guess, in that house. We made a baby in that house. It was such a beautiful, brilliant thing. So I had, my heart breathing career started in that office, HB90 boot camp and creating my first planner, having a little baby, although that picture is from our next house because we ended up moving to another new house, which also had its own manifestation story along with it. So again, it wasn't exactly what we wanted, but there was so much joy along the way. And if someone had pulled me out of that little townhouse that George and I lived in and put me in this house that I'm living in now, I would have missed all the amazing things that came from those other rental homes. And those rental homes were not where we wanted to be long term, but they were joyful and they were part of our journey along the way. Then, of course, we decided to build a home. After 4 years in Charleston or so, we decided, okay, we're going to just build a house. And I had everything all set up. Like, this was the house I wanted. I was trying to manifest it, but everything kept going wrong. And part of what really went wrong was COVID. And during COVID, all the prices of lumber went up. And so by the time our house was finished, so this was the house that we had purchased and it was completely done. They contact us maybe 2 weeks before we're supposed to move in and say that they're canceling all the contracts in the neighborhood and they're raising the prices, but they don't want to tell us what they're raising the prices to until they let the market settle, right? Because at the time, the market was going up and up and up. And I think they were just trying to say, well, let's see how much we can get for these houses. And everybody else in the community decided to sue. But George and I had several signs and we listened to the signs of the universe. And we said, this isn't where we're meant to be. Everything about Charleston that we love, but there are signs all over the place in our intuition, actual physical signs like the address of this home, lots of different things that we just kept feeling that nudge and those whispers of this is not where we're meant to be long term. And so we, did something that I got a lot of criticism for. It maybe didn't seem logical, but we left and we went Airbnb. Yes, and it was that house where I've got a picture of Evie there in the little bassinet is when I wrote The Witch's Key. So that was another house that had its own. I also did publish and thrive in that house, published several books from that house. But this blue house on here, this kind of blue teal house, we never got to move into that house. And even though it was heartbreaking, I didn't focus on how unfair it was. I didn't let myself get into a lawsuit, not saying that you shouldn't, but I just knew that was not where I wanted to be. And I decided we're going to take a leap of faith. And even though this is a difficult time, I'm going to try to focus on the fact that we are going to be where we want to be. Somehow we will, if we continue to trust our intuition, God will lead us where we're meant to be. All my experiences, both the wonderful ones and the difficult ones, clarified for me exactly what I wanted. And without those experiences, I would not have known exactly what my heart desired to have, be, and love. The point of telling you this part of the story, and I'm going to give you some action steps too, but the part of going through this story for myself is to give you an example of, it may not be exactly what you want. It may not be the exact manifestation, but as we go through our day-to-day lives, it's both the good things, the amazing things like Publish and Thrive and The Witch's Key, and it's all those, but it's also the difficult things of, this house isn't working out. This house has been rented. We don't have a good neighbor. This is, it's like all these things that kept also clarifying us like, oh, that's not what I want. That's not what I want. Exactly what I did want. And without those experiences, if I had just jumped from one reality to another and everything in my life just became perfect overnight, I would never have known what my heart really wanted. So it's those daily, I hear an Evie yelling for me. Hopefully she's okay out there. It's those daily experiences that continue to lead us toward what we truly want the most. And that's what we have to trust, is that even if you're in a difficult time in your life, something about this moment is leading you toward what it is that you most desire and that is most meant for you. Sweetheart, go find daddy, okay? Wonder how the lawsuit went for the others. Did they lose? It still hasn't been settled. Those houses are all still empty. And we're talking years later, those houses have never been lived in. And we made the right decision. It's never been settled, which is, we've followed the right way. I also hit a moment in the period of us living in Airbnbs when I really was going through, again, like such a hard time. And I found myself really mired in the difficulty of it. I don't know when we're going to settle. I'm tired of traveling. I'm being attacked online. I'm worried about every little thing. And for that period of time when I was being publicly, like my name was being publicly dragged through the mud, I was so focused on the difficulties that we were going through. And again, I remembered my energy, right? And I said, okay, I know from experience that these thoughts are not serving me. And even if it's true that this is difficult, the more I allow myself to just live in these difficult, dark thoughts, the more difficult it will be for me to ever find my way back to what I truly want. And so I took a day and I just deleted all my Pinterest boards that had to do with all the things that were no longer right for me. And I'm a very visual person, so I use Pinterest a lot to find the things that I want visually, because that's just the way I work. It might be a different process for you. But I deleted all my Pinterest boards of the beach and the ocean and having a baby, because I already had my baby. Like I had all these things that were kind of like old energy stuck there. And for me, it was almost like a ritualistic thing of saying, okay, yet again, I open my mind and my heart to something different, even if it's not what I was expecting, even if it's not what I originally envisioned. Now let me think from where I am right now in my life, what is it I truly want? And I allowed myself an entire weekend to sit there and just daydream about what it is that I want to create in my life. And so I sat down and made Pinterest board of what I could envision now as maybe, what we're really meant for. If the beach is not meant for me, what is it I want? What kind of home do I want? And so I'm going to give you an example of the home, even though there were lots of other things besides the house. I knew I wanted stacked windows. Like I got very specific, like see how in that first picture, the windows are two windows on top of each other. I wanted that. And it was specifically on my list. I wanted wood beams on the ceiling with a fireplace. I wanted a home that was that living room, kitchen, dining room combo that had like a big hood over the stove and like big open windows and a spot for the couch. I knew that I wanted a kitchen that had this kind of layout to it with dark wood floors. I knew that I wanted a bedroom that looked or felt something like this. And these were my dreams. These are actual images from my yes, it's like recalculating your GPS that you say, okay, we've gotten lost somewhere along the way from, from Charleston to Texas. So how do we recalculate our GPS? How do we find another route toward what we want? And I these are actual pictures from my Pinterest board from November of 2021. Before we had a house, before we knew where we were going to settle. So here's some of the pictures. Literally less than 2 months later, this is the house that I found. So this is before we decorated it, but stacked windows. I mean, kitchen, that could be the same kitchen, except I have different chairs, right? Fireplace with shiplap, bookshelves, all that. That's my current house. These could be the same places, right? Literally down to this is the bedroom, this is my bedroom. Like I I could not even have dreamed that this could be my life, but this is the power of allowing yourself to let go of your old dreams or of the energy of the problem and take the leap of faith into how can I get into the energy of this could be possible for me? And if it's possible, what do I want? And allowing yourself to dream of that. This was a picture of an example of a like entryway that I wanted. This is my house. Like when I tell you my realtor called me and said, "I think I've found your Pinterest house." He was not kidding. And the couple that was selling this house was going to take it off the market. Now, let me tell you, we were in a market at the time, January 2022, that all the houses we looked at went like overnight for 40,000 dollars over asking price. But because this is south of Dallas and it wasn't as like uh hot of an area, and there were other little things that made it like maybe slightly less desirable for the new, like all the new builds that were going on north of Dallas. The couple, plus who knows what, like who knows what, it was just the universe was holding this house for us. This couple was about to take the house off the market because they weren't really getting the people that they wanted into the house. Also notice the wood beams there's wood beams in my ceilings. And we ended up getting it for less than asking price for this house, and it was just meant to be. I didn't put this on my Pinterest photos, but I had Pinterest photos for a decade of an office that had bookshelves, a gaming space. This house has literally everything that we'd ever dreamed of. But like I said, you couldn't take the version of me in 2009 that was just getting married to George and pick her up and overnight in 6 months drop her into this house. First of all, she couldn't have afforded it. Second of all, she wouldn't have been ready to live in this home. It would have triggered so many feelings of self-doubt, of fear, and all of that. I had to become the woman that lived here, and I'm just using the house as an example that's visual, but it's all these things. It's all the culmination of our life experiences. You could call it a job, you could have it, and when I say that I will someday have a TV show on Netflix or Amazon Prime or something, I know it is coming for me. I know it is happening, whether it's Beautiful Demons or it's something I haven't written yet. But I haven't brought my energy to that level yet. The version of me that I am right now isn't quite ready for that. And I trust that. And so I feel no anxiety or fear around that manifestation because I know it's coming. And if I could tell you the power of that's why I'm sharing this with you with these pictures, because it's such a visual thing. Manifestation doesn't have to be things like houses or cars or rooms or purses or anything. It's just, this is a good way to show it, right? I could not have gone from our small town home in North Carolina to this home. I would not have been ready for it. I was not an energetic match for this reality yet. But I got there, right? one step at a time. Manifestation is about loving yourself enough to be on the good feeling path. And this is a quote from Abraham Hicks, if you're familiar, is it's about loving yourself enough to be on the good feeling path. And so I'm going to give you some steps toward how do you do this in your own life. And this is not just about what is going on with your house or your things. It's also about the relationships that you have, the way you look, the things you do in your life, the experiences you get to have, the way that you feel about yourself, the energy, your health. You can apply this to literally anything and everything in your life. I'm just using a house because it's you get it. It's visual. So steps to manifestation. First thing, and I can give you guys these slides if you want, uh, so that you're not like making notes. If this resonates with you, I can give you a link to these. Get as clear as you can about what you want. If you don't know what you want, get clear about what you don't want in your life anymore. So take away the pressure that you have to have it all figured out. Like you don't, I obviously that was not the house that I live in now was not the house that I put on my Pinterest board back when we lived in Charleston. I had that other house, right? But as I was willing to say this or something better. And as soon as I had the disappointment of this is not the house that is meant for me, and I had to kind of go through a mourning period and a difficult period of that some things are not going to work out the way I thought I wanted. I had to then turn around and open myself up to, okay, then what's next for me? And trust that whatever's coming next for me is even better than what I dreamed of before. If I had allowed myself to live and get mired into, like when I say during that trip, before I made that Pinterest board, I was in so much anxiety that George was worried for me because I had allowed myself to fall into a really deep place of fear that all my fans were going to abandon me, that I was going to lose everything I had built, that we were not going to find a place that we would be safe. And I was, for a very brief period of time, probably about 3 weeks, I was so focused on the negative things that I could start to feel and see the negative things I was attracting into my life. And I had to put a complete stop on it, and it wasn't like an overnight thing, but if you're sitting in this place where you just continue to say one thing after another is going wrong or not working out the way you wanted, you have the power to change it, and it's not the steps that you take of action. It's first allowing yourself to let go of the complaining about the past and about things that aren't working and start focusing on the good things that are happening, because there are always some good things, even if it's only a few things from where you are right now. So get as clear as you can about what you want. Pinterest boards, vision boards, writing it down every day in a journal, talking to your friends about it, getting excited about it. Pay attention to how you feel when you think, talk, or dream about what you want. Can you imagine what it would feel like to have the life that you want? If it gives you a negative feeling, pay attention to that. Your feelings and your emotions are your key to knowing when you're in the right vibration. When you focus on the things that are going wrong, you start to feel poorly, right? You start to feel anxiety. When you start to focus on the fears that you have that things are going to go wrong, you start to feel anxiety, or you start to feel like this can't happen for me. But I also want you to pay attention to, like, if you were to sit down and close your eyes, even if you're not a visual person, just close your eyes so you can kind of get the visual out of your mind and just think, how would I feel right now if, and then fill in the blank of what it is you want. If I got a call that my, book was #1 on Amazon, how would that feel? If you feel and you can get yourself to a place of like extreme joy over that, then you're in a good place, and just call in that joy for 5 or 10 minutes every single day as you imagine that. But for a lot of us, what's going to happen is when we try to imagine that, we're going to discover some difficult feelings inside of ourselves. Like we're going to start to say, some little voice in the back of our mind will say, well, you're never going to hit #1 on Amazon. You can't even publish your first book. Or Well, that's not gonna happen because you messed up and too many of your fans have abandoned you. Or there will be some other kind of belief that will come in, or maybe you won't be able to specifically discuss in your brain you won't be able to exactly put to words to it, but you'll know you're afraid of that in some way. Like if you said, "How would you feel when you walk into this house and someone hands you the keys and says that it's yours?" If that kind of makes you feel sick or like tight in your chest, it's not because that's not meant for you. It's because there's still some kind of limiting belief inside you, some sort of energy that you need to shift so that you can believe that that's possible for you, right? Then begin shifting your energy and alignment toward what you do want, and do this as often as intentionally as you can, right? Yes, Brandy, that is a very true part of it. And I think that is still what's holding me back is the panic of being seen. And, I want to get through this stuff, but I could talk about this for hours and hours. That there usually is, when you think about the thing that you want, sometimes we have this duplicity, this conflicting energy around it, right? And this is how you begin to understand that conflicting energy is that you think, okay, this is what I want. And you can think about anything it is that you want. And when you think about it, if you have that instant anxiety, you have that like fear of it, then that does not mean that the universe or God is telling you that it is not meant for you or that you can't have it. It means that you have some kind of limiting belief or some kind of fear that is still holding you back from that. And when you have that fear and that energy that conflicts, because you can't want the fame and then also be terrified of being seen. Those are two opposite feelings, right? And so we're not in the energy. You're not in alignment with the fame and the fortune and the number one because you're terrified of being seen. And those two things, you can't be number one and not be seen. You can't be number one and not have people criticize you. It's going to happen. And so when you have those conflicting energies, it's slowing down the manifestation. Is this making sense or am I going too deep too fast? But when you want it, but you feel for some reason you're not worthy of it, you can't have it, you're scared of it, there's, all these conflicting energies, it's going to slow down the progression of you getting what you want. And so that can sometimes mean you got to start shifting your energy around the idea of being seen. And that is where we move on to these next steps. So it's actually a good thing when you can imagine it and you can identify something that is holding you back or that you're fearing, because that anxiety, that fear, that if you can start to define what that is, then you can start reframing it. You can start shifting it. So here's how we shift our energy. Number one, pay attention to what feels good to have or to have done and do more of that. So pay attention. For example, let's use the thing of like you want to be number one on Amazon, but you're afraid of being seen, right? Pay attention to what feels good to have or what feels good to have done right now, and then do more of that. So instead of thinking about being number one on Amazon, think about, does it feel good to write? Does it feel good to share your work with your 5 best friends? Do more of that and lean into how good that feels. And even though that seems like such a small step, that energy of, oh my gosh, it feels so good to share my work with these 5 people that love my work, or it feels so good to have written today, then you start to line yourself up with being number one at Amazon because you're in the energy of, I love to share my work. And that's going to start to draw that success to you. Number 2, pay closer attention to your thoughts and how they make you feel. Question any thought that doesn't bring comfort, hope, excitement, or make you feel better in some way. Now, this is not me saying toxic positivity that you always need to think happy thoughts, because that is not the truth. What I'm just saying is when you start to feel low, pay attention to what you were thinking. So, for example, let's say tomorrow morning you wake up and you're doing your makeup or you're getting dressed, and suddenly you just feel really down and you're not even sure like why you feel like you want to cry or you have anxiety. Stop and think, what triggered this feeling for me? And then, try to take it back to something that happened. So for me, it might be something like, Oh, well, I feel bad because somebody sent me an email this morning criticizing something and saying they wanted a refund for my course or something like that. Or I got 3 more emails today saying, "When's book 12? It's taking you too long to write it." And I will know that that's what's making me feel bad. So once you've identified that thought that's making you feel an unpleasant feeling, question that thought and say, "Is this true? That I'm not a good writer or that I'm a bad person or that I am not good at making courses?" No, it's just someone else's opinion, but it's not actually true that that is going to mean, because a lot of times if I'm feeling down, I have taken that criticism and I have made it mean something about my life. So for example, I will take the criticism of your course sucks and I want a refund, which nobody's ever said that, but let's say I'll take that criticism and I will take it in a like almost like a catastrophizing way where I will say, this person didn't like my course, so therefore more people won't like my course. And what if I can't make money next year on courses because my courses aren't good enough? And sometimes we do that where we take one tiny kernel of something and we blow it up into this big thing. And maybe not everybody does that. And if you don't do that to yourself, you are a very lucky person, but many of us do. And so when we do that, what we can do to shift our energy is to say, okay, it is true that this person didn't like my course, but is it true that that means I'm not going to make money or that my courses aren't any good? No, it's completely a lie, right? So instead, I can send that person their money back and then I can let it go and I can say, okay, that's okay. Let me go instead and shift this and read a bunch of reviews of people that loved my course and said that it was life changing. If someone gave me a criticism that I can use to make my course better, then I can take action on that criticism. But if it's just a mean comment that can't give me any good action to shift, then I am in control of shifting my own energy to something more positive. And if I can't shift my energy around the thought of my courses, then I will shift my energy around something else. Right. So I'll just say, okay, well, I'm just going to go play on the trampoline with Evie or whatever. We don't even have a trampoline, but I don't know. That came to mind. Maybe that's a sign we need to get one. But I can just say, I'm not going to think about that right now. I'm going to think about something else. Also, we can start to look for evidence of what we want and that we're on the right track instead of always looking for reasons that it's not working out. So, more gratitude for what is working, less focus on the things that aren't working out for us. And this is hard work for some people in some ways because when you are focused on, I'm never going to get where I want to go. That car, my car's not getting me to my job every day. Everything's going to completely like fall apart. Maybe that's true, but the more we focus on that being a difficult thing and it's never going to work out, the more we cut ourselves off from the solution of someone else giving us a car, of someone saying, "Oh my gosh, I'm selling a car." Like there are solutions out there, but we can't see it when we're in a negative mindset. So shift your energy and instead of start looking for evidence that, look, my sales aren't good. Look at these numbers. Look at this. I never finished anything. Get yourself out of that train of thought and instead go, you know what? I actually finished a short story last month and I'm actually doing pretty well this month and I feel really good, and focus on the gratitude every single day of the things that we do have and focus on your wins that you are winning at. Even if it seems so small, I got out of bed today. That's better than I did last week. I got out of bed 3 times this week. I got 1,000 steps today. I didn't binge eat those donuts today. Like whatever it is, find your gratitude. And this one's kind of a harsh one. And I know we've only got a few minutes left, so I'm like trying to get through them, but stop complaining all the time about how things are. And this one's hard, I know, but watch out for conversations where all you do with that particular friend or that particular person is complain or go over how worried you are or how unfair things are. Because law of attraction, in that case, when you just keep bringing it up and bringing it up and bringing it up about, well, this house isn't selling and this isn't going right and this isn't going right and blah blah blah, and you just complain and complain and complain, then you are drawing more of those types of things into your life. And so watch out for those relationships where it's just a lot of complaining. and see if you can break those habits of complaining all the time and start thinking about things that are good, that are going well in your life. Another tip is to make room for what's coming. So you can change your energy to allow, like, if you really want to bring a relationship into your life. Let's say you live alone and you really want to bring a relationship in your life, and you look around and all of your closets are stuffed. You have everything in every single room, everything's super cluttered. How is there room for a partner to come move in with you? Right? So declutter some things and make room for, like, my future partner's going to have this as an office, and believe that there are lots of ways that we can declutter old thoughts, old beliefs, energy, clothes, like old memories. There's a lot of ways that we can make room for what's coming in our life. I'm going to start going through these pretty quickly and we can go more in depth later. But therapy, I mean, sometimes we just have to talk through it to get over it, right? And therapy isn't always even about getting over it, but it's just about healing. And so find support that feels safe. EFT is a emotional freedom technique, or tapping, where you tap different energy points on your body while you say things. We could do a whole session on EFT if you wanted to, but if you can identify a limiting belief, for example, where you say, "I'm scared to be seen," then you could tap and you could say, like, actually, I usually do it this way. Uh, Even though I'm terrified of being seen, I still deeply and completely love and accept myself. And there are ways that you can use that tapping technique, and it's a way of sort of clearing yourself of that energy. It's really, really helpful, especially if you struggle with anxiety. Dancing, working out, or moving your body, go for a walk, do something to get your energy flowing in a positive way, can shift your energy. Vision boards, rituals, other tools to help you focus in a joyful, expectant way about what's coming into your life. We're going to do a vision board party over at Heart Breathings in December. If you want to join in, that'll just be a YouTube thing. Try to let go of the timeline. When you feel time pressure or desperation, come up with a mantra to help you chill TF out. My success is inevitable. There's no time limit on my success. I'm right on time. I'm right where I'm meant to be. And try to sit with that until it feels true. And if that doesn't feel true and you feel like you're lying to yourself, then say, "I'm willing to believe that everything is going to work out. Things are always working out for me." Go until you can find a mantra that feels good and safe for you. Bring your future into your reality right now in small ways, any small way that you can. So, what kind of, like, if you say to yourself, "All right, well, someday I'm going to have a TV show and I'm going to be making 7 figures a year." So, how would that version of Sarah show up when it comes to someone writing an email saying that they don't like me? Would that version of Sarah care? Would that version of Sarah write back and cry about it? Probably not, because she's making 7 figures and she's busy and she doesn't have time to read her emails. Renee can read her emails, right? Which is kind of what already happens now. I've already set some of those boundaries, but, like, what boundaries can you set that your future version of yourself would set, or the person that has the things that you're trying to have? So if you want to be a best-selling author, what types of things does that person do? Do they believe in themselves? Do they make a glass of sparkling water for themselves every single day? Do they dress nice when they go to work, or do they just get to sit around in their sweatpants? Maybe that's your luxury, like simple luxuries. How can you bring that future into right now? Tarot, like we talked about yesterday. Is that just yesterday or day before? I think it was just yesterday. Daily cards and oh no, 2 days ago. Daily cards, journaling to help open up your intuition and receive messages from the divine guidance within you. Listen and look for the signs around you, because once you open yourself to them, you'll start to see them. Work on identifying beliefs that are holding you back from what you want to manifest in your life. Clear and shift them daily as they come up. And then finally, hold the vision for what you want, but don't let the not having of it yet bring you down. And this is kind of the hardest part. Focus on lifting your energy more than efforting your way to your dream life. So this will be the final thing that we talk about here, is just when, sorry, I keep putting myself in front of the slides, but if you want to go from here to here, it's going to be steps, right? Baby steps. With every thought that makes you feel on that path from here to there, discouraged, less than, unworthy, fearful, ask yourself, is this thought useful to me? is this feeling useful to me? Or is this helping me or is this hurting me? So if I mean, I was just talking about criticism, but like, let's say someone criticizes my writing or criticizes how long it takes me to write a book. If I allow myself to get down for several days or a week about how that person is right, and I have not been writing as much as I want, and that means that my whole career is going to take me forever to get here, and I'm really focused on the gap from where I am to where I want to go because I'm letting myself down over and over again. I need to stop and ask myself, is that thought that it takes me too long to write books, is that useful to me? Is it helping me or hurting me? Obviously, it's hurting me, and it's not even true because I have all these fans that are waiting for my next book regardless of how long it took me. So, just because of that one criticism does not mean that it's true that I'm a bad person or that I'm not a good author, and it also doesn't mean that I can't publish my next book and be a best-selling author, because there's evidence, if you look for it, of people who started a YouTube channel and got 100,000 subscribers in a year, or people who published a book after publishing 20 other books and they published one and it took off, right? That you can find those stories because your past failures does not mean anything about your future success. You can still have all the success and all the dreams that you want, even if you've let yourself down in the past. And so you can ask yourself, is this thought useful to me or is it hurting me, right? And it is true also that most of these old beliefs will be something that either kept you safe when you were younger, or it could be something that is still for some reason keeping you safe, like what Brandy was talking about, that you think you want to be here, but truthfully you're scared of it because you still have a belief in there that says I can't get that because when I get that famous or that big, too many eyes will be on me, and that is a scary thing for me. And so you have to think, okay, how can I shift that energy step by step, one small thing at a time so that I can, I don't have to go from here to here. I just have to go from here to here and then here to here and then here to here. And by the time you get to here, you're going to be so comfortable with the idea of being seen. And sometimes that'll come through difficult things that happen to you, like things that have happened to me. But the more I go through those moments where hard things happen, the more I know how strong I am to be able to survive through it. And so you don't have to be afraid of this. You just think, gosh, I trust that by the time I get there, I'm going to be the kind of person that loves to be seen. And then you get busy becoming that thing, becoming that person. So that is our manifesting coffee chat. If you didn't see it, I also have for you over on my blog, I made it today and then just decided to put it up on the website, a little manifesting planner. There's one that's purple and then there's one that's just white, plain white, that's a little easier for printing if you don't want to print a lot of color. But it is just something that you can go through every day or whenever you want, where you can really focus on the gratitude I'm grateful for and list as many things as you want in your gratitude section. But my emotions are telling me that now, if your emotions are in a good place, then it can say, I'm telling me that I'm in a good place, that I'm aligned with my desires. But if you are feeling anxiety, maybe your emotions are telling you that you're believing some limiting beliefs or that you're focusing on some problems. I choose to focus on. So now you get a choice to think again. Like I choose instead to focus on the gratitude and the things that are going well. Then you can also do an I believe statement. I believe that I am. I believe that I am capable of being a selling author. If you can't get to that belief, then say, I believe that I am on my way to writing my first book, and make it a smaller goal. Then you can create an action plan and some reflections for yourself. Like, okay, today I'm going to pay attention to my emotions and I'm going to do these 3 things to help shift my energy. Then there's kind of a longer term thing. My greatest desire right now is what? What are you trying to bring into your life? And when I think of having this, I feel, and it's okay if the I feel statement is I feel scared or I feel scared of being seen, because that's going to help you identify. So then something that comes to mind for me is that one is really about like something that comes to mind for me is I want to be a best-selling author, but I'm scared that if I'm seen in that way, it won't be safe for me. So anything that comes into your mind, it could be something like that, like a limiting belief, or it could be something that comes to mind for me is a vision of how great my life will be when I get there. I'm willing to shift this feeling. So if you wrote something in the feeling section that was difficult or a negative feeling, you could say, I choose to shift this feeling by, and then choose some of those energetic things to shift. Or I choose to lean into this feeling if it was a happy feeling. Like when I think of finishing my book, I feel elated, excited. So then you would say, I am willing to lean into this feeling by getting some writing done and then celebrating with a coffee. And then you also have another section there to lean into your action plan and your reflections. So feel free to grab those. You can find that on my blog for day 9. So just sarahcannon.com, head to the blog section. And underneath the coffee chat embed, there's like a YouTube for our coffee chat today. Right underneath it, it'll say, I made this planning page for you, and you can download that. All right. We made it through a little bit over time, but these are the things that have really been on my heart and my mind. And I feel like so much is opening up for me in this realization of, you know, taking it step by step, trying to let go of the timeline, because I often will impose a timeline on myself and be like, well, if I can't finish this book and get it out before Spooktacular, that means XYZ, everything's going to fall apart. But the truth is, nothing fell apart. The book isn't finished yet. It's going to be okay. And kind of continuing to practice self-love, be willing to let ourselves feel good along the way, and trying to get into a place where we're focused more on gratitude and the things that are going right, so that then we can see solutions that weren't visible to us earlier. And every time we feel the negative feelings of nothing's working out, things are so bad, and we catch ourselves, the more we can begin to become aware of when we're getting mired in those. And I know some of you are going through some hard times. So like, you're entitled to those feelings. You don't have to make yourself feel good. Like even just the tiniest step forward is going to move you in the right direction. But there are just going to be times where we're going through hard things. But when you find that you're so focused on it that it's making you feel worse and worse and worse, and you're in a negative spiral, try to just stop yourself and think, are these thoughts really serving me to think about the past or to think about the problems? Am I actually coming up with solutions, or am I just complaining? And if you can't think of any solutions and you can't get out of that energy, just stop and clean your house. Like, do something that makes you feel better. Stop and take a bath, stop and read a book, and do that, whatever it takes to feel better in that moment, and trust that the solutions will come from that new energy instead of that negative energy, because they will come. I have full faith in that. All right. So I will copy the link to these slides and I will post them on the blog for today. So in that place underneath the coffee chat where you get this manifesting planner, I will also now go and put a link to these slides from today, and you can feel free to copy them, print them, use them, whatever. And just don't, do your own presentation and share them all over the place. But I trust you guys. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you for allowing me to share my beliefs in this way and for staying open-minded while you are here. I appreciate it. I'm sending you all my love. Tomorrow, Saturday, we will meet up for our full moon Saturday, and we will have a coffee chat at noon. Or not a coffee chat, just a daily live stream at noon for just about 15 minutes. And then at the top of that hour at 1, we will meet again for live writing sprints. So I'll see you tomorrow kind of for a 3-hour period. And we're just going to read together. Did I say writing sprints? Reading sprints. We're just going to read together. So just bring your own book. Imagine that you're just coming to my living room and you're just going to read a book, and I'm going to read a book, and we don't have to read the same thing. We're just going to hang out and read. And then every once in a while we'll say, hey, what are you reading? How's it going? And that's kind of what tomorrow will be like for us. And I think it'll be really fun, very chill day. And maybe we'll do a quick little full moon tarot reading as well, if you want to see that. So, all right. Have a lovely weekend. Enjoy your night. Let's go Rangers. Hopefully we will, sorry if there's any Diamondback fans, but hopefully we'll win some World Series games tonight. And I will see you all tomorrow. All my love to you and all my best wishes. If you want to learn more about my manifesting practices, I do have a class called Manifest Your Best Life or Manifest Your Best Year. And we're giving away 3 of those on the blog today. So head over there to enter to win. And I will see you tomorrow. Bye.